Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Tracy Brown, for those of you who don't know me, and I am a practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living Dallas. And today we'll be talking about and thinking about the third way. And I hope you're curious what that means. I'm curious too, so we'll see what I have to say about it. And but I want to start as we go into this morning's service by recognizing and acknowledging anyone who might be visiting here for the first time. And I have a gift for you.
Hi, I'm Petra Weldis, Senior Minister of the Center for Spiritual Living in Dallas, and we're delighted that you found us here on the web. You can find our Sunday services on our website by every Wednesday, and we love that you can look at us online and explore these spiritual teachings. Feel free to explore our archives. It goes back a number of years with lots of special topics and amazing speakers. You can also sign up for our email news, My Daily Words, and my blog, Spiritual Living with Dr. Petra. If you're looking for a spiritual community, come visit us. Or if you're just in Dallas, drop on by. We'd love to give you a hug. Welcome home.
This song is called Gift of Acceptance by India Ari and Idan Rachel. And Tracy requested it, and I can see why, because for me it is Tracy. And it reminds me of Tracy, and it reminds me of our community. Some believe it's right to say Jesus when you pray. Some believe Muhammad, Allah, Buddha are the way. Instead of God or a pantheon of gods up in the sky, I'll honor your choices and you can honor mine.
message and our message. So the third way, what is that about? From the lyrics in the song, one way to think about it and to begin to think about it is that we all want the same things. Regardless of culture, regardless of background, we might name it a little differently, but we all want the same things in life. As I travel around the country, as we travel around the world, we find that there's some similarity, that people want a peaceful environment, that people want to receive and give love, and that prosperity, however we define it for ourselves, is something that's high on our list. However, are we willing to give up our need for being right? Now, I don't know about you, but I like to be right. Maybe you are much more enlightened than I am, but I like to be right. It feels good when I'm right. It feels affirming when I have the right answer or things are going my way, and when my friends do what I expect them to do, and when my family acts right and, sees things my way. I like to be right, don't you? And sometimes that's what gets in the way. Because when people aren't doing what we expect them to do, then what happens is it feels like we're out of alignment. It feels like they're wrong. That's what it really feels like. But it feels like, a conflict situation. The energy feels like what we call conflict. Now, I have some very wise friends, and so I sent out a Facebook post saying, tell me about recent times you've been in conflict with someone else, and just tell me what that was about. And I looked for patterns. But what I loved, one of the responses I loved, maybe more than any others, was this one. Okay, so let's read it out loud together. Conflict only occurs when the other person I'm always right. Yeah, don't you get that? So I don't know, can you resonate with that? Yes. Conflict only occurs when the other person doesn't realize I'm right. They just need to get with the program. And so one of the things that I like to remember is that conflict only seems that way because I have a different expectation, or I wanted someone to be like me, think like me, act like me, and agree with me. So our theme this year is joyous living. And in the Joyous Living Journal, which we are using and following this year, how convenient is it? Of course, you're smart enough to know it wasn't an accident. But how convenient is it that today's topic is the third way? Here's what it says. Learn to disagree with ideas, not people. This will allow you to find a place for authentic dialogue without creating attack or defense. Keeping disagreements from becoming polarized is the only way to find the third greater solution, which is always better than anyone's individual idea. That's what the third way means. Getting beyond your limited view or your judgment of someone else's view and together coming up with a third way. Another way to look at things. Another idea to consider, another option to implement. And so when I think about this idea of creating a third way and creating authentic dialogue, the first thing that came to mind was, I didn't learn about authentic dialogue growing up. In my house, in the home I grew up in, my parents were perfectly nice parents, but they did not encourage me to express what I thought, especially if it didn't agree with what they wanted me to do. They never turned to me and say, well, Tracy, what is your idea about that? No, that didn't happen in my house. Maybe it happened in yours, but it didn't happen in mine. And so learning to authentically dialogue with someone and tease out what's important to them while sharing what's important to me is something that I didn't really learn until I was an adult. Now, in reality, growing up, there were some times when I was exposed to the concept of authentic dialogue. I grew up during the Civil Rights Movement, and there were examples of people being inspired, maybe by Martin Luther King, maybe by others, to really sit down and talk about how we can live life together in peace. And so there were some examples like that. There were some examples in my church community growing up where our church came together with other churches in the same denomination and had youth programs or worked on community projects. So I got the kind of the vision of what it might look like, but I didn't really learn authentic dialogue until I was an adult. And to see the power of it, to open up new possibilities, to create a third way. But in the last 20 years, I've had lots of opportunities, and I've helped to create opportunities where I could have authentic dialogue and look for the unlimited potential that could come forth from that dialogue. For example, in 1999, there was a lot of tension in the Dallas-Fort Worth community. If you saw anything on the news about the school board, the Dallas City Council, any leadership group, especially if there was any politics related to it, you saw news clips of people yelling and screaming at each other and calling each other names and using racial slurs and demanding that people vote based on race or ethnicity or gender. And as a result of that, there were a group of leaders in the Dallas area who said, wait a minute, we are leaders. We want to step into leadership and have sane conversations about racism, and race relations. So some of you may be familiar with Dallas Dinner Table. It was a series of events over 10 years where people would come together in small groups, people of different ethnic groups, different age groups, men and women, different sexual orientation, and sit down all over the Metroplex on the same night and have a conversation, have a dialogue about what's been the impact for you in your life from the Civil Rights Movement, or what did you learn when you were growing up that was about race or racism, or what did you see in the media and how does it affect your life today? And we ask those questions one to the other and really listen. And listen for how can each one of us be a part of the healing in our community? How can we have a deeper conversation? And how can I, each person saying, how can I, when these issues come up, how can I remember that everyone's an individual and I can ask questions about it? So authentic dialogue, that was a place, the Dallas Dinner Table process was a place where I experienced that over and over and over for 10 years. Another place where I experienced authentic dialogue was with my friends Dirk and Jane Belton. And they own a business called Mandorla Resources. And if you are not familiar with the word Mandorla, think about this image. Think about two circles and where they overlap. That oval in the middle where they overlap, that's a mandorla. Now that's a simplified version, but I think you can visualize that. And so they do work in the world that inspires people and teaches people how to be two separate circles overlapping and find the mandorla, find the third way. Instead of being circle A, it's my way, or circle B, it's my way. There's a place where there can be overlap. And so my experience, my initial experience with Dirk and Jane was a group that we informally called the Dallas Dialogue Group. And we talked not only about race and race relations, but we talked about all manner of issues in the community and in the world And where could we find a place? Where could we understand a new perspective? Someone's perspective who came from a completely different background. And it was one of the places where I really developed my faith that multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-generational conversations could not only be had, but could be a healing presence. I've had lots of experience with authentic dialogues, and one of the places now in my life where I try to ensure authentic dialogue happens in a way that opens us up to the third way is in my own brand, in my own work under the Stained Glass Spirit brand. And what Stained Glass Spirit is all about is that each one of us, like our own stained glass, each one of us represents a different color, shape, texture, size, a different purpose. And in the case of a stained glass window, all of that is woven together with the black leading. But in the case of a spiritual community, every one of us is woven together by spirit. And so I'm very passionate about where do we stand? Where is the intersection between diversity in the ways that we're different from one another, inclusion, what we build together, and spirituality, connecting the two. And so I'm really blessed to be able to go into communities around the country, spiritual communities, and engage in that conversation. And it's just fascinating. Last summer at 17MAR, our annual Centers for Spiritual Living Summer Spiritual Development Camp is what I call it, but a week on the shores of the 17MAR State Park in California, and I was able to do a workshop, invited to do a workshop there. And we had 50 people in the room talking about, wow, this is what we do in our community to include others. Someone else sharing what they learned by bringing in people who had not been members of their community before and having true dialogue, and out of that coming new activities, new programs, and a lot of growth for their center. So we do a good job of that here, and there's always room to have continuing conversations about that. The other recent conversation that I had that was a beautiful example of an authentic dialogue that led to a third way was, as many of you know, I went to Vancouver to the Centers for Spiritual Living annual convention a few weeks ago. And during the business meeting at the convention, one of the things that happened was that we were talking about the definition of a church that goes into documents and all the paperwork. And there was a camp of people who felt, well, one of the ways you define a church was point A, point B, point C, and they have services every Sunday. And then there was a camp of people who said, yeah, well, we agree with A, B, and C, but why does there have to be a Sunday service? What if we want to have a weekly service on Friday? What if our community wants to have a weekly service on Wednesday but nothing on Sunday? We're still a church, right? And for a while, there was Camp A and there was Camp B. And then some wise person, one very wise person, was listening to both sides. I wish I could say that wise person was me. It would make the story much better. But a very wise person came to the microphone and said, we talk about who we want to be in the world. We talk about how important it is for us to touch and transform the lives of 100 million people. And as we do that and expand out into the world, Sunday might not be the only time to have a service. Isn't it more important to say a weekly service or a regularly scheduled service, but not put a date to it? And in a breath, Camp A and Camp B came together, and 98 or 99% of the people in the room found a common ground, found a third way. And in that business meeting, a vote was taken, a consensus question was asked, and there was almost unanimous consensus that the wording could be changed. And that's a perfect example of how when we look for a third way, when we're open to it, when we welcome a new thought, we can create something completely new. So authentic dialogue is absolutely critical for us to find a third way and then to step into it in our lives. So Rumi has a quote that I love, and many of you I know love it as well. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Letting go of my way is right and your way is wrong. Letting go of even, I don't know, but I know there's an infinite field of possibilities, and it's out there somewhere, and it's in some of you. I know that. And that's where I want to meet you. I want to meet you in that field that's beyond anything I could personally think of on my own, and anything that you could create on your own. Let's meet in that field and play this game called life. So also in Joyous Living, tomorrow's entry, so if you are following along this year, you will read this again tomorrow. It's a great reminder about this concept of the third way. Some of the issues facing humanity today are beyond human means for solution. They are beyond the grasp of political leaders and their think tanks. If there were solutions, they would have been implemented by now. These are the times that challenge one's belief, and one can give way to doubt and fear. Is your faith in God bigger than your faith in the world's challenges? Is your faith in God bigger than your faith in the world's challenges? That's what it takes. That's what it means, really, to step out of your own stuff and look for a bigger answer. Look for something that you could not have imagined before. Now, when we interact with people who are different from us, who have a third way, a fourth way, a 10th way, another way, it sometimes causes what we label conflict. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes we're curious about it, but often it creates this sense of conflict because we are not quite sure what to do. But what I would venture to say is that the goal is not to eliminate all conflict. The goal is to recognize the conflict is just a representation that we're two different people or we're 8 different people, and to ask the question, how can we use that? How can we talk about that? How can we have authentic dialogue that leads to us being on the same path together, even though we're starting right now at a place that looks like we can never be aligned with one another. And so conflict in our human experience is something that it's normal. We're going to experience it. Now, I always say that in our human experience because we know, right, in science mind, we know there is no conflict in God. There is no conflict in spirit. But we're having this human experience and we bump up against one another all the time. And sometimes it happens automatically that we heal it, and sometimes it doesn't. So answer this question or complete this equation from basic math, basic addition. 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, that's one possible answer here. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = 3. 3? Huh, okay, 1 + 1 = 3. What else 1 + 1 could equal? 11. I hear 11. And 1 + 1 could equal? 1. Okay, so let's see here. Daphne, would you come up here, please? And would you just stand right here? Thank you. Okay, so 1 plus 1, you have one person, one beautiful, fabulous, amazing woman, and one other, an additional beautiful, fabulous, amazing woman. Indeed. Catching on my jacket. Oh, that's okay. Thank you. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. Equals 2. Now we have 2 women here. That's fabulous. 1 plus 1, because we are from the same Spirit. We are of God. We are made of God's stuff. 1 plus 1 equals 1. That we are very different from one another, but we are still one. And when Daphne posts things on Facebook as her one, and I post things on my Facebook profile and I'm one, sometimes that turns into 3. Because we have a new shared idea and we combine our networks and have a different conversation that comes up with a new idea, a new program, a new outcome. So 1 plus 1 also equals 3. And you all are so smart. Give Daphne a round of applause for letting me call her up here. And I love that I can call people up here with no warning, no advance warning. Just come on up. And 1 plus 1 equals 11 as well. And so if there are any of you who are like, 11? What is that? So if you have the numeral 1, and you do put it next to another numeral 1, you have the number 11. So there's more than one way to look at all of life. You know, I used 1 plus 1, but you could use person and another person, a personality and another personality, a skill and another skill. And that just multiplies the more people you interact with. So I have a couple of suggestions for you. If you are willing to seek a third way, a new way of being, a new way of showing up in the world, 3 things to remember. First, that diversity is the divine design. Now, I know and believe with no doubt, no hesitation, that Spirit is the infinite. Spirit is perfect, and there is no spot where God is not. And part of what that makes me remember is that in the creative process, there is nothing, there is no one that's more creative than Spirit itself. So, the fact that there are almost 7 billion people in the world and no 2 are alike, I don't think that's a mistake. Because I have always grown up knowing that God don't make no mistakes. Right? So it's not a mistake. Diversity is part of the divine design. Why are we fighting it? Why do we get uncomfortable when someone who's a different race, a different age group, a different sexual orientation, has different education, works in a different department? Why are we going crazy? We're just doing that to ourselves because diversity is a part of the divine design, and I want to celebrate it. So that's something to remember when you think about the third way, because I want to find out how God is showing up as Deanna. I want to find out and understand what that is that gives Maru her personality and her way of showing up in the world. It's like, okay, I'm curious, because diversity is a part of the divine design. Reminder number 1. Reminder number 2 is that oneness does not mean sameness. So you saw Daphne come and stand by me, and some of you are like, oh yeah, they're the same 2 black women. No. I love Daphne. But Daphne is so different from me in so many fabulous ways. And I love that. And I love that we have some similarities that you can see when you see us. And that we have some similarities that you can't see that are within. But we're very different from one another as well. So be careful about thinking Oneness is the same as sameness. Sometimes people will say to me, oh, Tracy, we don't need to talk about diversity. We're in New Thought. We believe in oneness. We are all one. And we are, each one of us, one with Spirit. Each one of us is completely one with God. And that makes me connected to each one of you. But I'm not the same as each one of you. And so that also will help you build a bridge with others. And reminder number 3 is that unity does not require uniformity. So we can be united. We can work well together. We can learn from one another. And we don't have to dress the same, think the same, be the same, act the same, read the same. We don't have to be the same. We don't have to be uniform. The only thing we might want to be uniform in is our understanding and love and expression of Spirit, each in our own unique way. So I invite you to think about and take those 3 reminders with you out into the world this week. Because you're going to run into some people like her who say or who act in a way that makes you know what they believe is it's my way or the highway. Now, how many of you know anybody like that? Yeah? Now, I know no one in this room is like that. Today. In this present moment. But all of us know people, maybe even live with people, and definitely many of us find ourselves working with people that the perception we have is that they expect us to do things their way or go away. You know, their way or the highway. And what I am inviting you this week to begin to think about is the 3rd way, another way. That when I let go of my attachment to my way, and when I release my judgment of your way, it opens me up to notice, recognize, and accept Spirit's way. And when I am operating in Spirit's way, then I am operating on the high way, the true high way, the high path, that high level of consciousness that directs my path. This could be the week for you that you say, it's not my way. My entire life doesn't have to be my way. I want it to be the high way. Are you willing to try that this week? And just see what happens, see what comes forth, see what kind of relationships you have, what kind of conversations you find yourself in by moving from my way, moving from judging your way, the other person's way, and instead walking with the guidance of the high way. When our minds are filled with thoughts of anger, hatred, and resentment, what we're really doing is pouring poison into our own bodies, our own minds, our own ways of being. You are not hurting anybody else because you're angry with them. You are not making a difference in anybody's life because you resent what they said to you 5 years ago. It doesn't work that way. That anger and that resentment just builds up in you, and it blocks your vision from seeing the potential of a 3rd way. And when you realize that behind all conflict, Spirit is saying, that person is my beloved. When you realize that in back of all anger, resentment, pain, it's all an illusion. Because Spirit is saying to you, you are my beloved. And anyone that you find yourself in conflict with, the voice, the pure voice of Spirit is also proclaiming that person as its beloved. And so it is imperative for us who believe in and practice science of mind to step forth into a different way of being, to step forward in a way that says, I know always there is an option, there is another way, there is a third way, there is the highway, and it is simply waiting for me to be the consciousness in the room that allows that to come forth. You do not have to be a licensed practitioner wearing a purple stole. You do not have to have gone through 10 years of school to become a minister to be the consciousness in the room that says, third way, where are you? I know you're here. You might be in the mind of this person or that person, but I want to find it. I want to feel it, and I want to experience it. So my challenge for you this week is that you seek the third way, and that you take into consciousness the words that are in the lyrics of the song that we started with. It is up to you to give the world a present, and to make that present the gift of acceptance. Please join me in prayer. I know without a doubt that there is no spot where God is not. I know that love is my mission. Love is the mission of Spirit, and because I am one with Spirit, it is my mission as well. I will not be distracted or confused by people who think differently from me. I will not be distracted or confused by people who talk differently than I do. Because what I know is that diversity is a divine design, and every person has been made perfect, whole, and complete in the spiritual image and likeness of God. And so I open myself to be that consciousness that seeks the third way, that consciousness that knows every person brings value. That's who I choose to be. And I'm so grateful for knowing that the universe works in such a way that this intention set right here and right now, for me and for everyone who hears this prayer, the universe can only say yes. And the universe, in fact, is saying, this is already done in divine mind. Do not question it. Do not even think about it anymore. Just do what needs to be done. And I leave the universe to reconfigure every atom, cell, and molecule in my body, every thought that I have, every relationship that each one of us enters into. Because that's what the universe does. So I release to that power, that presence of Spirit, knowing that it is perfect. And so I take a deep breath, and I invite you to take a breath with me. And I breathe it in. And then I release it. I release it. I release it. I release it. And together we say, and so it is.